Hello YouTube. My name is ChrisCrossPlay. I'm a Southern California and Instagram crossplayer. I've just recently started streaming on Twitch. Feel free to check out my channel. Link will be below in the description. We're going to be live Tuesdays and Thursdays starting at 7 p.m. PST. Come hang out and have some fun. This video is part of a series I'm making about learning how to play teamfight tactics. To find the rest of the videos, you can totally check out my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for dropping by and hope you enjoy. We are starting on items. So, according to the League of Legends Wikipedia, items can be equipped to champions to increase stats and grant additional effects. Every game is going to start off with a round of Carousel, where you get to grab a champion that is holding an item component. Every champion will have a little icon hovering above their head with an item picture on it. Additional items are also going to drop from minion and AI rounds or subsequent carousels. Items are stored on the item bench, which we looked at a little bit earlier, until they are equipped to a champion. Then, selling a champion is going to return all items that they are holding to your item bench. So items just live on your bench. Champions can hold a maximum of 3 items. Now, there are 2 types of items when we say items. There are item components, and there are completed items. The official wiki calls them basic items and advanced items. I like to think of them as being item components or parts of completed items, and then the completed items themselves. You can combine any 2 components to complete... I can English, I promise. You can combine any 2 components to create a completed item. The components themselves give small stat bonuses, but the effect of a completed item is much more powerful than the individual item components. So instead of just dropping item components on everything, you want to save up until you know what completed items you want to make with the components you are given, and then which champions you want to put them on. To start us off, we're going to look at this overwhelming chart. Like, look at it, it's just so much color, and there's boxes everywhere. So this, this is a cheat sheet of all of the items you can make in the current set. You can find different cheat sheets online that are less intimidating and in different formats. This is the current TFT Fates item combinations cheat sheet. As you can see, you can pick any item on this column. This is called a column. You can pick any item on this column, go down the row and see like, oh, a BF sword and a needlessly large rod make this item, or chain vest and a tier make this item, which we'll be going over what the different items are in just a second. I just wanted to use that as an example while we had the picture pulled up. Yeah, if you want overwhelming, check out this cheat sheet. This one has all of the effects of the items listed next to the portraits just to overwhelm you even more, which is phenomenal. It's handy if you're just starting out and you don't know what the item names are or what the effects are just by looking at a portrait. Once you become more familiar with playing TFT, you don't need this. This is just me saying like, hey, if you have a second monitor, theoretically you could just slap this on the monitor while you play and then have it up and you can see like, oh, this picture, holder spells heal them for a percentage of damage dealt. You know, it's a handy little cheat sheet. All right, and that is by Pro Game Guides, just to drop my source in there. Sometimes too, you might have just like a random component sitting on your bench and you're just like, what do I do with this? Like, I'm at the end of the game and I still have this sitting here and it needs a home. So you're like, what can I build? Going here, you can say, oh, that'd be good with this other component. I should grab that component. Or I could really use this item on this champion. What do I need? Oh, I need that and that. Perfect. You know, it's nice and easy to read once you know how to read it and it's not just color everywhere. Another way to see what item builds into what is by taking an item on your item bench and hovering it over another item component. So for here in this example, I have a glove, which I forget what it's called. Sparring glove. Right here in this little example, I have a sparring glove and I have a BF sword. Taking those, I can hover the BF sword over the sparring glove, and it's like, oh, if you combine these 2 items, you get an Infinity Edge. Now, Infinity Edge is a unique item, so you can only have 1 Infinity Edge on a champ at once. It gives crit chance, and it also gives attack damage. It also has a bonus effect of, it grants critical strike, but every point of critical strike above 100% becomes 1% crit damage, so it has a little fun effect. There are certain champs that can utilize crit better than others. we'll be looking at that when we get to actually talking about the meta and who to play and where to put which items. So if hovering one item component over another tells you what item they combine to make, how do you actually make these items? Great question. Thank you. I appreciate that. We're going to look at if you put one component on a unit. Once you know what item you want to make first, and which unit is getting the item, because you can't move the item unless you sell the unit, which I have a gold Yasuo in this example. I don't want to sell that unit because that's a really good unit. If you drop one of the components on a champion and then hover the other item, you are able to see a little pop-up that says, hey, if you drop this component on this champion, this item is going to be made. So it's like a little warning, but also just like it tells you that's going to happen. So dropping this Negatron cloak onto this Yasuo, I then grab the, what is it called? I then grab the sparring gloves and hover it over Yasuo, and it's like, hey, if you put this item down, you're going to make a Quicksilver on your Yasuo. Remember, you can't move the items around after you make them onto a unit, unless you sell the unit. So make sure you're not wasting good damage items by dropping them on, like, your tank, or, like, something else that you're going to keep late game. If you're going to scrap the thing late game, it's fine to drop items on it. Early game, just know that you can't break the components up again once an item is formed. So if you make a Quicksilver, and then late game you're like, ah, shoot, I wish I still had that Negatron cloak, you can't get it back. So it could have been better to wait, to hold off on making items until you know exactly what you want to build. Also, if you have two units of the same name with two different components, for example, if I have like a bronze Yasuo with BF Sword and another with the sparring gloves, if I pick up a third Yasuo and all those combine, guess what? The items combine too. So just be careful, because those items are going to form an item whether you wanted it or not. And then you're kind of stuck with that item being on that unit too, if you didn't want it there. So now how do you actually get item components? Another great question. Thanks for participating. Let's go ahead and take a look at the carousel one more time. This is the first carousel. When you load into a game of TFT, this is what you're going to see. You see everybody's little legend around the circle, and in the center of the circle is a rotating wheel or carousel with a wall between you and the champions rotating around. Each champion has a component item floating above them. Once that wall drops, there's usually a mad scramble to grab a component item, and then you're teleported away to your arena to start round 1-2. So what are these component items? I've been talking a lot about their names and what they kind of do, but let's go ahead and dive into what they are. Super exciting. Items. If you're familiar with League of Legends, you have a little bit of an advantage because you come in knowing what these items are called and generally what they do. BF Sword, over here, is going to give you attack damage, recurve bow, attack speed, needlessly large rod, ability power. Tear of the Goddess is going to give you mana, Chain Vest is going to give you armor, Negatron Cloak, magic resist, Giant's Belt health, sparring gloves, crit chance. Spatula is another beast in and of itself, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. So depending on which team you are trying to build and what is currently top tier, different items are going to have different priorities that you are going to want to grab. For example, in this set, Chain Vest is incredibly strong. It is a great thing to grab early on because a Chain Vest and a Giant's Belt gives you Sunfire, which is a great early item. Chain Vest and BF Sword is going to give you Guardian Angel, which is a fantastic early game item. It builds into so many good early game tank and damage items that is just a solid meta item. If you know you enjoy building damage to start off the game, you might try to go for a BF Sword or Needlessly Large Rod to get some early damage items available for you to build into a later completed item. Recurve Bow is a fantastic item for attack speed teams, as Rage Blade is a core item for a lot of the current teams. You want to grab whatever component item works into whatever you like to build. So for example, I know, like, okay, I really like to build mages. So I really want to grab a Tear of the Goddess in this first carousel round. Like, I know going in, I want a Tear of the Goddess. If I can grab it, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. If you don't get what you want, you haven't even seen your shops yet, or what other people are building. So you really have no idea what you're building anyways. However, if you do get one of the two core components of an item you know that you want to build later on, it's an early head start, which is pretty beneficial and sometimes can make or break a team comp. In this current set, for example, an Ashe without a Rage Blade is not as powerful as one with. So if somebody else gets a Rage Blade on their Ashe and you don't have one, it's kind of rough if you go against each other. And Aphelios without a Guardian Angel. You can roll like the perfect team and have all the units you need, but if you don't have the right items, your team is not going to be as strong as it potentially could be. Does it mean you're going to lose the game? No, it doesn't mean that, but your team could be a lot stronger if you get the items that you need for its core damage, or if it's a tank team, tankiness. All right, let's move on to looking at second carousel. This is round 2-4, as you can see here. First carousel was a mad scramble to grab whatever units you could. Every carousel after the first one is a lot more organized. So first of all, there is a button at the bottom, which is this big blue one. Clicking that is going to bring you back to your arena, so you're able to see what item components you currently have, which can give you an idea of what you want to grab. It also shows you what units you currently have. The last 2 players in the player ranking are going to have first pick of items. So in this case, it's Oing Bibo and Fish Boom here. Their little gates are open first, so they have first pick of whatever item they want. Then the next 2 players have a pick, the next 2 players, and lastly, whoever's in the top 2 positions gets to pick an item, which you can see in this lovely animation here. In case of a tie, the game randomly puts you in an order, which is sometimes unfortunate because I have 92 health. Everyone in the second bracket has 92 health, so I got bumped up a bracket. Just know that sometimes in case of a tie, it bumps you either up or down, so just keep an eye on that. But, you know, that's life, that happens. If you are losing more early game, the game gives you the advantage of giving you first pick on items. This can be huge if you're behind. It is a risky strategy to try to lose early game intentionally to try to get first pick on items, but, you know, if there's an item that, like, you're like, oh, to run this team, which I'm going to run this game, I absolutely need this item. You can lose a little bit early on to try to get that item. It's risky, but it can work for sure. So the people in first place basically get whatever's left over. They don't really have much pick. If you're doing well in the game, you probably won't get what you want ever from Carousel, which is unfortunate. Another thing to keep in mind is that Carousel is literally the only place in this game where you can specifically pick which item component you're grabbing. So if there are items that are core to the team you're building, make sure to grab those components and pretty much just ignore whatever champion that is underneath them. Now, for example, if you have, in this set, 8 cultists gathered, and you need 1 more cultist in order to reach 9 cultist buff, which is a big deal, and you see on Carousel, you see a Zillion, who is your 9th cultist you are missing, you can grab Zillion for a unit, for being a Zillion cultist unit that you need, and ignore the item, unless there's, like, actually an item that you really want more than that Zillion, which I don't actually see, but, you know, grab it if that's, like, something you really need for your comp. For the most part, Carousel is your only chance to grab what you need, so really try to utilize that. Alright, going into Carousel, you guys will see when I play a game later, but I really try to vocalize what it is that I want, what it is that I'm looking for when I go in. So I say, like, okay, I have X items, I could really use a chain vest, a BF sword, and a recurve bow, but really I'm going to be happy if I get anything at all. Or, like, oh, I really could use a Negatron cloak, but I'll take anything. Basically, have an idea or list of what item components you are looking for when you go into Carousel so that you have an idea of what to grab. There is enough on the Carousel for everyone. Like, I'm not going to go in and not get an item, but just, like, have an idea of what components you could really use that will benefit your team or your late game strategy if you're going late game. Alright, sometimes the item component that you really need isn't even on the Carousel. You could go in saying, like, I could really use, what's a good example for this picture? Like, I could really use a Negatron cloak, and there's only one, and it gets grabbed before your turn. Like, have a backup plan, just in case. Alright, round 5, this is 2-4, so starting with round 5 Carousel, there are completed items going around this circle. At that point, you want to really look at what components you have left and figure out what items you want to make with what you have, because you're really not going to see a lot of components past that round 5 carousel. Aside from Carousel, the only other way to find item components is through a random orb drop against a minion or an AI. As I talked about before, do I have a picture? I do have a picture. A white orb is going to give you either gold or a champion, so we don't really care about that when looking at items. Blue orbs have a high chance of giving you an item component. A gold orb is going to give you a completed item or a spatula. What is a spatula? A spatula is a rare item that you can find on drops, or very rarely on Carousel. When combined with any other component, spatula is going to create an item that gives a unit some basic stat buffs, plus an additional class or trait buff. And this is going to be based on whatever components were used to form this item. So for this set, you can see Spatula plus BF Sword is going to give you a Divine Sword. This is going to give you a little bit of attack damage because a BF Sword was used. It's also going to give you a Divine trait. So if you are building a Divine team and want to hit that last Divine slot, you can get it if you have a BF Sword and a Spatula. If we look at Spatula plus Recurve gives you a Duelist item, which gives you Duelist trait. Spatula Needless give you a Dusk item, which gives you Dusk trait, etc., etc. Now, you can see if you get 2 spatulas, if luck favors you, you are able to get a Force of Nature is what it is called. If you make a Force of Nature with 2 spatulas, combine them on a unit, that item is going to make your team size +1. All of these other items are incredibly situational based on whatever team comp you are currently building. Having +1 team size is pretty handy like anywhere. It doesn't matter what comp you're running. But it's rare to get 2 spatulas, so if you get a spatula, you can hold on to it and hope you get a second spatula, but like the odds are not good of getting 2 spatulas. As you reach late game past round 5, your end of round AI opponents will start dropping full items. These items are randomly determined but can help you fill out your team. Last item we want to talk about in this little guide is this blurred out low resolution screenshot I managed to pull from a game. This is called Nicos Help. It has a completely random chance to drop as you're playing, and using it on a unit creates a copy, a bronze 1-star copy of whatever that unit is on your bench. It's basically just useful if you're trying to get a silver 2-star of one of your units and you just need one more and you've been searching for it and you can't find it, but you have a Nicos Help, you can just drop it, copies the unit, you get your 3-star, or you get your 2-star. Or yeah, sometimes even getting a gold 3-star unit can be helpful by just getting a Nicos Help. Alright, that is actually about it for items. Thank you so much for staying tuned and listening in. Hopefully you guys were able to learn a little something. Next up, we're going to be talking about gold and econ, and also something called rolling down. So I've used that phrase a lot, so just stay tuned because we're going to be covering that right next up. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching and making it all the way through. Your support is literally what's running me right now. I'm making a couple more guides for different parts of teamfight tactics, which will be available on my YouTube channel. Feel free to check them out. If you guys enjoyed this video, you guys know what to do. Like, comment below, tell me anything I missed or any questions you guys still have. Feel free to subscribe and click the bell for notifications, and you can find me on Instagram at ChrisCrossGames or on Twitch, twitch.tv/ChrisCrossPlay. Thanks so much, and see you guys later.